welcome to Ghost Talk. My name is Harold St. John. I'm the founder of Toledo, Ohio Ghost Hunters Society. I'm joined tonight by our guest, case manager Rebecca McClenathen. Butch Leon, our founder, is not feeling well today, so Beck's offered to set in for him. We have Jacob Steiger, our director of youth education, behind the camera. Did our little bit of a stage or set prop here tonight. Welcome back to Ghost Talk. We've been off for a couple of weeks. We've been discussing this, if we should go on every Sunday or every other Sunday. I don't want to overwhelm you guys every week if it's not necessary. So you need to let us know if this should be a weekly show, a monthly show. I have a lot of great topics to talk about, but I can talk about ghosts every day. So it's up to you fans. Thanks for joining us tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about a couple of different things, urban legends. As you know, if you're following our Facebook page and what Togs has been doing lately, we're checking out some urban legends, some paranormal fact or fiction things. And tonight we're going to talk about black-eyed kids or black-eyed children, which is a really strange paranormal phenomenon, something that's just come around maybe in the mid to late 1990s. It's fairly new to the paranormal world, but it's worth checking out. And if you read our Facebook this past week, you see that we had 16 really creepy stories on there. I want to introduce once again Becky, our case manager. Togs, what's going on, Beck?
Well, we're trying out the whole TV screen thing tonight to hopefully it'll show up on the video. This is kind of a little experiment, but we just want to show you our website. We've updated that with some of our newer stories and added some pictures. You can contact us through the website or at togsteam@gmail.com, and as always on Facebook, where you are right now. Or you can call us at 734-224-0003. So check us out.
I think what we've been out for, as you know, we weren't on the air the last couple of weeks. One weekend we are on our spring road trip, which we do, every spring, and then we do another one in the summer. Becky, myself, and Jeff went down to the Hocking Hills area and Logan area. We toured through the Zaleski State Forest and the Wayne State Forest, and we had some fun. Beck will tell you some of the places that we visited, and of course, this past week was Easter, so happy Easter to everybody. And sorry that we missed you on Sunday, but I didn't think that it was a great day to do a show. So what did we do on our spring road trip this year?
Well, we revisited the Moonville Tunnel, and we just put a couple pictures up here. We took a lot of pictures, did some EVPs, every place that we went. But this wasn't a real super investigative. This was just kind of a spring fun trip. If you look on our website, however, we have a short, is it a video clip you have on the website or a picture of the full-bodied apparition you caught in the Moonville Tunnel?
Back, I want to say probably 2000, maybe 2004, Jeff and Butch and I went down for a Moonville Tunnel trip, and the tunnel is about 350 feet long. It sits up in the top of Zaleski State Forest. If you go to our website, we posted a new story this past week, gives you directions on how to get in there. It was kind of cool that day that we were there. There's some other visitors, but back in 2004, if I remember right, Butch had set up a static night vision camera on one end of the tunnel. We had a couple of other night vision cameras set up, and the tunnel was empty and there was nobody up there that day. We got really lucky. We had started with a couple of short EVP bursts. Didn't think we captured anything, and then Butch set the one camera outside. We let it roll throughout the whole thing, and to our amazement, watching the video much later, about 250 feet in, off the left, it'd be right over here. I don't know if you can see this TV screen or not, but right in here, somebody or something had stepped right out of the wall and then back in. Quite an amazing video. It's on our website under evidence pages. If you search around our website, you'll find that it's Moonville Tunnel full-bodied apparition. Yeah, we captured a full-bodied apparition.
Yeah, and when we went this time, it was a daytime, but the last time when I went with you guys, it was in dark, and it was a pretty creepy walk out there. It's in a beautiful area in Hocking Hills. It's about maybe quarter-mile hike to the bridge.
Exactly.
And we have directions on how to get there and more information on our website.
Well, what else did we do while we were down there?
Well, you know what we did that we didn't put on here, which we weren't thinking, was the picture of Old Man's Cave. We went down there to recreate a picture that was taken by me, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That had, you know, what we looked like was a paranormal picture. We've got that on our website too, but unfortunately we didn't bring it. We also went to the Moonville Cemetery, and there's Jeff doing an EVP session.
What I thought was remarkable about this, and you probably can't see it on the camera, I don't want to keep pushing the the website or the Facebook, but that being said, we did post these pictures on here. This cemetery is from the late 1800s, maybe 1870s on. I don't really know why. A lot of the headstones are, unfortunately, are right level with the ground now. You don't even know where some of the bodies are, so you got to be careful when you go in there. This one particular headstone, though, is from the Jones family. And he had a lot of really strange gifts. A ball cap and a little doll, a teddy bear, a little bunny rabbit, some pieces of clothing. So somebody's still going up to the Moonville Tunnel. I wouldn't know why or who it might be. Is at this one particular headstone is, giving a lot of gifts. So that's why we decided to do an EVP session at that.
Right, and it's it was a baby that died in 1874, so it is kind of curious that people are visiting
Right.
that gravesite. You know, they had Easter decorations there that day.
What else did we do?
We found this old, abandoned, really creepy looking house that we met the owner on the property, and he said that this house was notoriously haunted. Of course, it was not completely safe inside. We were able to take pictures and check out the downstairs, so we couldn't really do an investigation there, but we met a really nice person and heard a really interesting story and took a couple pictures of the home. And there it is.
I, on the other hand, did not go in. Just too creepy for me. But either way, I stood back and took some pictures of Jeff and Becky in the home. That was kind of a neat home.
There were things in there that hadn't been touched since the 1960s, which is a really long time ago, so it was kind of cool.
What else did we wrap up with?
We are wrapping up with urban legends, black-eyed children. Are they fact or fiction?
Right.
And what do you know about them, Harold?
Well, not a whole lot, but I don't believe that anybody else does either. I brought some notes and some things that I've Googled. The last couple of weeks, I had talked to a buddy of mine a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about black-eyed kids or black-eyed children. This gave me the idea, and I tried to Google everything I could. A year or two ago, I watched the show, and I think Mysteries and Monsters, or one of the monster shows, and they were talking about black-eyed kids, and I'm very interested, but there's very little I know. This is one of those urban legends of supposed paranormal creatures, but they resemble children, but are they children? We don't know. They're usually between the ages of 6 and 16. There's usually 2 of them. They have pale white skin and very black eyes. They're seen sometimes, usually hitchhiking, panhandling. Usually they'll come up to your door and knock on the door. They'll approach your automobile and ask for a ride, and they're somewhat pushy in the way they go about things. They don't take no for an answer. I think what's most amazing about black-eyed children is, maybe you could share one of the stories that you read. Becky read another story, and I'll finish this. Once they're there, when the sun's down, it's dark, and you're home alone, and there's a knock on the door at a time that you're not expecting, and there's a child or two out there on the porch, and they're asking if they can use your phone, and you say it's kind of late. I'll make the call for you. Well, just let us in. We're cold. Would maybe be one of the replies, or we're lost. My mom would be worried about us, or can we get a ride? We don't have a ride home, and they're very insistent in their approach to this. Usually, sometimes their heads are down, but you have this overwhelming feel of fear, anxiety, paranoia. That's what this whole thing brings on, and sometimes your animals are even upset. What was one of the stories that you read today?
Well, before I go into that, and I read a few dozen stories from different websites, and interesting, I thought this is something, a story, that an urban legend that must have started in the United States in the 90s. But then on some of the blogs, I was finding people in England telling the exact same stories. And I'm not going to give you like a particular story because I read a bunch of them. I probably could, but the weirdest thing is they're always looking down and you don't see their eyes right away, and they are acting kind of shy and they're very insistent. And when you won't let them in to use your phone because you got a super creeped out feeling, a lot of people report that. They say they had an instant feeling of like dread and fear, and the kid looked up and they saw those black eyes, and then they almost felt compelled to open the door and force themselves to slam and lock the door. What happens if you let them in? I don't know. There was one story where a young man insists that his friend was saying these creepy kids were like stalking him, and then he disappeared. I don't know if it's true, but there are stories just all over with the exact same thing. So.
And the stories don't go that far back.
No.
I guess these stories started appearing in pulp culture probably in the mid-1990s from everything I can see. I did read an interesting article, and it was on Monsters and Mysteries in America. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the show. It might be on the Destination Channel, I'm not sure. But there was a Brian Bethel. He was a writer, I believe an editor, for I think a pretty popular newspaper. I think he was from Texas, I believe. Several years ago, he had gotten off work, if I remember the story correctly, he had gotten off work late in the evening. It was dark out, and it was on a Friday, and he wanted to deposit his check into the bank, so he ran to the bank of the drive-thru and deposited his check. And right across the street there was, a mailbox. So he decided that he would sit there and write out a couple of checks and drop them in the mailbox before he took off for home. It was probably around 11 o'clock in the evening. He had two children, one probably around 15 or 16, the other one looked to be 9 or 10, approached his car, and he had his driver's side car window down an inch or two. That being said, his head was down, and he all of a sudden felt this kind of a fear feeling, an anxiety feeling inside. He looked up, and two children with hoodies on approached his car. He was too afraid to unroll his window all the way, so he was kind of talking to him through the open window, and he asked if it could happen. He said, "Hey, mister, can we get a ride? We're lost, and we need a ride home." And he's, instantly felt horrible fear and anxiety, and said, "Where do you live?" And instead of answering the question, they just said, "Our mom's really worried about us. Just let us in the car." And he decided right then he wasn't going to let anybody in the car. And then the children said, "Just let us in. We're really cold." And they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And finally, one of the kids did look up, and Brian had made eye contact with the older one. And he said his eyes were darker than midnight. There was absolutely no white. He was scared to death, and he took off. What happened if you do let him in? I don't know. We're still, it's part of the urban legends thing. So, is there some truth to this? I don't know. But the sure is there's thousands of reports in the last 20 years of people encountering these black-eyed kids. I don't know what to make them.
I don't know. And sometimes it'll be two teenagers, and sometimes it'll be two younger children, or an older with a younger, saying this is reportedly, I need to use the restroom, or I need to call my mom, and they say, "Well, stay out there and I'll call your mom," and then it's like, "Oh, my brother has to go to the bathroom," and then they see the black eyes.
Well,
Jake.
These alleged sightings are taken pretty serious, by ghost hunters and paranormal investigators. I mean, the question is, are they extraterrestrial? That's been said. We have a call coming. Let me finish this. Are they extraterrestrial? Are they ghosts? Are they lost souls? Even so much as, the chupacabras and all the other things that are out there. Are they part of that? Are they just an urban legend? Even so much as, are they vampires? I mean, you've heard everything across the board. What are they? We don't know. We have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, Marie asks, do you know of any reports in our area of these children being seen?
No, and here's the thing. When I wrote this story and shared some other stuff off the internet this past week, I put out there on our Facebook, if anybody has encountered this phenomenon, to get a hold of us. It's been sitting out there for about 4 days, and nobody has approached it. Nobody's said they have. So,
And the reports are from all across the country.
Right. We just don't know. I mean, it's just one of those things.
And if it really were happening, a lot of people would probably feel kind of weird that they were so frightened by children in the middle of the night that they slammed the door in their faces as opposed to helping them. So, I wouldn't be like, oh, yeah.
There's some truth to that. It's just like anything else. For all you paranormal investigators, people that do this as a hobby, we run across all the time that there may be activity going on in the house, let's say with the wife, and the husband doesn't know anything about it. They once again, the feeling of being crazy, too embarrassed to say. Sometimes your friends don't know, and this is the same type of thing. I mean, if that happened, if it happened to you, I would probably hear about it. But if it happened to the neighbor, maybe not. Maybe.
Well, and could they be something demonic? I mean, if anybody's got any opinions, we would love for you to ask us some questions. Are they demonic, trying to take your soul? I mean, as far as I know, we can just come up with anything because we have no idea.
Either way, I think there's something to it. If you read some of these stories, the one particular story that I was reading, they had a dog, a large-sized dog at that.
Yeah.
And the lady was sitting there watching TV, and her dog was beside her. And then there was a knock at the door. The dog immediately, curled in fear and went to the back of the house where the dog usually, barks, is very exciting, runs to the door. This dog went to the back of the house with his tail between his legs.
I also read that in many of the stories that I read today.
Right. Do we have any other questions right now? Anyways, this is the phenomenon of black-eyed children. Whether there's truth or not, I don't really know. I invite you guys to post on our website and our Facebook page on this. If you have encountered, we're really interested. I'd love to interview you and what happened exactly. More interesting is somebody that may have let them in if these children went too far. So it's just one of the many different types of hauntings.
Well, I did read one story that the guy said that he let them in and he felt like he was having he was being drained. And he remembers a struggle. Oh, no, there were two people that one had a struggle in a convenience store, of all places. That's one of the ones on Facebook. And another one, the guy's girlfriend came home and threw these kids out. And he had no recollection of what had happened after a couple minutes into the encounter.
One thing that I've noticed that has something in common with every story that I've read, the feeling of fear and dread for months and maybe years afterwards, whenever you're alone, whenever it's after dark, if ever there's a knock on the door at an irregular hour, this fear doesn't leave you for a long time. Go ahead, Jake. We have another call or another question.
Becky asks, could it be more of a modern issue with reports only dating back 20 years or so?
Yeah, you very well could. That's a great question. I think it could be. From everything I'm researching, I don't know why there wasn't any reports of this going on in the 1800s, the early 1900s. I really don't know. But if you think of it, some things like Bigfoot, urban legend. Is there a Bigfoot? I don't know. I'd like to believe there is, but there's been reports all the way back to early times of man. But if you look at UFOs, they go back 100 years or so. Well, that's not true because some of the old cavemen, you see the droids with the UFOs. So I guess to be honest, we really don't have any truthful answers of what it could be.
Could this be something old in trying out a new gig, a new way of getting to you?
New approach. I guess the answer to that question is that we really don't have the answer. I'm hoping that maybe if somebody contacts us, maybe somebody can help us with some of those answers. We have another question.
Marie asks, have there been any reports of adults with black eyes?
No, there was one.
I read one.
All right, go ahead.
And I think that was one of the ones we had listed. I'm not sure, but it was old people.
Right.
Like 70, 80 years old.
Right. I guess.
And it was kind of scary. He was a college-age kid who probably had no reason to be afraid of 3 old people in the street in the middle of the night.
I did read that.
They did not knock on the door and ask to be let in. Is it related? I don't know. It's super creepy story though, and that's on Facebook too.
I guess 99% of them are kids from the ages. Well, I don't want to say 99. The majority of them are from the ages of 6 to 16. There's usually 2 of them. They work in unison. There's usually an older one and a younger one. And they're dressed in modern clothes. Modern clothes.
But they keep their heads down and don't.
Well, I think they keep their heads down because they really don't want you to see their eyes.
Right.
And maybe possibly you let them in. Either way, if you read these stories, before the whole thing even occurs, you have a feeling of dread. You have this fear factor that kicks in immediately.
You know, when you said the whole vampire things, I don't think there's black-eyed children that are vampires running around. But I mean, it in a sense, you know how you have to invite the vampire in your house? That's how it seems to be with them. You have to let them in. They don't come barging in your house. You don't open a door crack and they slam the door in. They want you to let them in. And that's every story.
Some cases that I've read, they immediately leave after you've locked the door and they know you're not. But there's also, they say there's maybe a hint of mental telepathy. The one story said the lady had a solid door. She looked out the peephole and saw the kids there. And the child started talking to her immediately. Lady, will you open up the door and let us in? We need to use your phone.
Right.
And she thought it was weird because they didn't have a phone. But the whole thing was, the children knew she was at the door.
And, you know, who's going to not let a kid in the house? You know, if I wanted to trick somebody into letting me in so I could steal their soul or whatever they supposedly do, I mean, I wouldn't, you know, come looking like the tough guy. Right. Or I would be like, oh, somebody who needs help. You know?
I guess this is all going to come down to, this is one of those, you know, paranormal phenomena type things that maybe in time, as time goes by, we'll learn more. But at this time, there's just so very little to know. And like you said, there are adult cases, but the majority of them are children. Yeah. Go ahead. I guess we have another question.
Yeah, so Donna asks, could this just be eye contacts versus black-eyed children, just black-colored contacts, almost like a practical joke?
Well, that was brought up many times on the comments on these. Could it be somebody, because some of them were like close to Halloween, and that's the first thing they thought. Somebody's pranking me all creepily with these black contacts, which that'd be like really good, because that'd scare the crap out of me. Mm-hmm. You know, all over the country and in England, they're all just running, you know, just joining in on this urban legend, running out and buying black contact lenses. It could be, you know, look at the crop circles. Right. You know, I don't know.
But I think it goes back to that the person that this happens to, it has a profound effect.
Oh yeah.
Prior to,
every single
during,
person,
and post the event.
Years later, right? You know, your fear of being alone at night.
I don't think it's that much of a prank, because I think, here's the thing: if you knocked on a door at midnight and you were pulling a prank with black contacts, and the guy, big burly guy, comes to the door and he's got his gun, you know, the joke is over. You're going to run. You're taking a big chance, and you know, especially children. That could be, you know, shot and killed or you know, injured playing this prank. So a lot of these are late night events in a place that's isolated, away from the public. I mean, your first question is, and most people's first question is, why is the child there at my door? Why is this child here out in the middle of the street at this hour? There's even been some where some of the people were on foot and been encountered, and as they're walking away, they'll get a block or two away, they'll turn around, and the children are slowly following them. So there's much more to it.
And quite often in cars, in the daytime and the night. And also, you know, we don't know if these people writing these stories are using their real names, but there's an awful lot of men out there posting their names that were so scared they were shaking and crying and up all night long. Now, if that's true, I mean, come on, it's got to be pretty something happened other than 2 children innocently standing at your doorway.
And this Brian Bethel, who was a writer in Texas, here's the thing: he was a professional. He worked for a public newspaper. He made it public that he did. He came out on a show, and the show came out a year or 2 after the event, and he was almost in tears when he was reported it even 2 years later. You know, Could a child playing a prank do that to a grown man 2 years later? I don't know. Anyways, black-eyed kids, like I say, if there's anybody watch this video, if you have experienced an encounter with this, we here at Togs would like to know what happened, how, what exactly took place at the time. And like I say, it's just one of those things, like any other. We've always discussed it as we're doing investigations. There's many, many different types of hauntings. Is this considered a type of haunting? I would think so.
Or a type of attempted possession.
Something. I mean, it's really, you don't know. So, they are as confusing, and we know about as little of them or as much of them as we do shadow people, hat men. Are they good? If they were good, I wouldn't think they'd have cold black eyes. Are they bad?
People a feeling of dread.
So we don't know. We don't know why they're here. We don't know what they want. And I personally don't know anything about it because I would never let them in anyway. So therefore,
well, and I guess the only way we could possibly ever have any evidence is every time a kid knocks at your door, take your phone with you on video. I mean, how do you prove it if something like that happens to you?
Well, why don't you take us back to our website? We're going to wrap up this show for another week. I think next week, I'd like to get Butch Leon in here if he's feeling better. Butch and I want to get an opportunity to share with you guys some of our older investigations and maybe some scary things that we've done over the years. And as we're talking about black-eyed kids, one of the many different types of hauntings, one of the many different types of paranormal phenomena that people that are encountering. I really want to do a show on some of our top cases that we've done that would be a little bit scary, or where our investigators have had some personal experiences, or even maybe been verbally attacked or something during it. The Windhurst case, the Maxwell case, we just posted for our friend Chris Tillman over at Haunted Toledo, a story that we did a few years ago in the 5 Points area on Maxwell, where we had the bed collapse and you were attacked verbally in the shower. That story we also have put on the Facebook. We share with Haunted Toledo. But I want to come back and do a show that involves talking about some of these cases. And I invite you guys to join us back on our show to them. And I think that would be exciting. You can really fire some questions at us. So do we have any other things, any other questions in there? Okay, we're going to end this week's show this week. And hey, don't forget when you're on the internet, if you need us, we're at www.toghs.org. That's Toledo Ohio Ghost Hunter Society. Beck checks our email, or I do, toghsteam@gmail.com. And Beck's got a new phone number here in our ghost office at 734-224-0003. So many different ways to contact us. If you feel that you need us, reach out to us. And we'll see you again next Sunday on Ghost Talk.
And have a great night.
I'm sorry? Happy hauntings. Jake just reminded me to say happy hauntings. We'll talk to you later. See you next week.